Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Submitting Your Application, Avoid These Common Mistakes, hosted by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. I would like to introduce you to today's presenter, Andre Bethia, Policy Advisor for the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful webinar entitled Submitting Your Application, Avoid These Common Mistakes. My name is Andre Bethia, and I'm the Policy Advisor here at the Bureau of Justice Assistance, also known as BJA. Today, our agenda is going to start with an overview of OJP, Office of Justice Programs, and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA. Then we're going to go into what it means about timely registration. Next up will be understanding the solicitation requirements, and my favorite, effectively writing a proposal. Then we're going to look into some of the nuances, like understanding the financial requirements. Finally, we're going to end off with submitting a complete application, and then we'll go into the question and answer session. The learning objectives. We want to educate prospective BJA applicants on the most common mistakes applicants make when applying for funding. We will review the OJP BJA funding process, discuss proactive registration steps, provide tips on how to identify the critical elements, provide tips on how to write a strong program narrative, and then review steps for including attachments. Today we're doing part 4 of a 4-part series. We have already had BJA Grant Applicant Education Series that included funding opportunities for your community in 2019, an overview of what's ahead, the first steps to applying, prepare now, and the federal funding process, what new and seasoned applicants should consider. Please note that today's webinar and all of those listed in front of you will be available on the BJA website at bja.gov. Let's start. What is the Office of Justice Programs, or OJP? OJP provides grant funding, training, research, and statistics to the criminal justice community. OJP is one of the 3 grant-making components of the Department of Justice. The other 2 are the Office on Violence Against Women, OVW, and the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Series, COPS. OJP Bureaus and Offices. Again, OJP is a bureau within the Department of Justice, and you have the Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA, the Bureau of Justice Statistics, BJS, the National Institute of Justice, NIJ, the Office for Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, which are OJJDP, the SMART Office, and the Office for Victim Crimes. Today's webinar will be solely focused on the Bureau of Justice Assistance. And BJA helps to make American communities safer by strengthening the nation's criminal justice system. Its grants, training and technical assistance, and policy development services provide state, local, and tribal governments with the cutting-edge tools and best practices they need to reduce violent and drug-related crime, support law enforcement, and combat victimization. To learn more about OJP or BJA, you can start off with the bja.gov website or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. BJA is a part of OJP. Now let's get into consider these questions. You always want to refer to page 1 of the solicitation. Is your agency an eligible entity? Another question worth considering, have you received the required authorizations to submit an application on behalf of your organization? Does your agency have a program currently or a proposed program or a request for funding that fits the intent of the funding agency? Does your agency have the capacity to manage the scope of work and the ability to complete the required deliverables? Does your agency have an understanding of the financial requirements to manage a federal award? There's a great tip at the bottom. Read the solicitation in its entirety at least 2 times. Register early. Why? Because the registration process may take 10 to 14 business days. There are 4 steps in registering as an organization applicant in grants.gov. To register, you will need all of the information listed below. So that's the name of the organization address, the name of the chief executive officer, CEO, or the organization owner, the legal structure of the organization, whether it's a corporation, partnership, proprietorship, the year the organization started, the primary type of business. We have another great tip for you. Refer to the registration and submission section of the OJP Grant Application Resource Guide that is listed at the website there for instructions on how to apply. Now let's discuss and review the legal requirements. Each recipient of an OJP grant or cooperative agreement must comply with all federal statutes and regulations applicable to the award, as well as the particular award conditions included in the award document. The web pages accessible at the links listed below are intended to give applicants for OJP awards a general overview of important statutes, regulations, and award conditions that apply to many, or in some cases all, OJP grants and cooperative agreements awarded in fiscal year 2018. Every recipient is expected to review and understand each condition included in the award document. So we're talking about general conditions, financial requirements, organizational requirements, civil rights requirements, requirements related to research, reporting requirements, and certain other requirements. Here we go. We got another great tip for you. OJP strongly encourages prospective applicants to review information on post-award legal requirements and common OJP award conditions prior to submitting an application. Always refer to the OJP Grant Application Resource Guide. Now we want to talk about post-federal award reporting requirements. In addition to deliverables described in Section A, the program description, any recipient of an award under this solicitation will be required to submit certain reports and data. Recipients typically must submit quarterly financial reports, semi-annual progress reports, final, financial, and progress reports, and if applicable, an annual audit report in accordance with the Part 200 of the uniform requirements or specific award conditions. Future awards and fund drawdowns may be withheld if reports are delinquent. We have another great tip for you. See the OJP Grant Application Resource Guide. Understand the review criteria. Section E of the application reviews information on the solicitation, describes the review criteria. The review criteria are how applications will be scored and the weight of each section. Becoming familiar with the criteria prior to writing your proposal will help you identify what elements are the most important to the reviewers. Develop a plan for writing. Identify the lead writer or writers within your organization. We here at BJA, we recommend that you do a collaborative approach to writing a proposal. Create an outline of the requirements. Then you start to identify the steps that will require the most time and do those first. Registrations, identify your partners, schedule planning meetings, compile resumes, obtain letters of support, and the required memorandums of understandings or MOUs. The program narrative. Avoid these mistakes. Not using the review criteria to write how an organization will accomplish the purpose, objectives, and deliverables. Not addressing every stated element in the review criteria. Changing the order or structure of the review criteria when developing a program narrative. Avoid all of those common mistakes. Here's a great tip. A section worth 10% should not be 10 pages of a 20-page application. Let's talk about it. The program narrative, you shouldn't be exceeding the stated page limitations. Not adhering to the formatting guidelines, that's a big mistake. Inadequately addressing the review criteria, wrong. Using the scoring for each section, determine how many pages to devote to them. So again, a section that's worth 10% should not be 10 pages of the 20-page application. Let's move into budget development. What should you avoid there? First off, waiting too long to begin developing the budget. That's a big no-no. Not understanding the required budget expenses detailed in the solicitation. It's there. Don't avoid it. Lack of familiarity with allowable and unallowable expenses. We gave you the financial guide for a reason. Some other common mistakes, including expenses in the budget that are not referenced in the program narrative. Not clearly stating the activities of any contracted services. It's wrong when you're differentiating between supplementing and supplanting federal funds. Lack of understanding of match requirements and the applicant's responsibility for ensuring the availability of match dollars. That's a mistake. We have a tip for you. Refer to the OJP Applicant Resource Guide section on cost sharing or match requirements. Some other budget development issues, including expenses in the budget that are not referenced in the program narrative. And now we want to talk about the budget detail worksheet. The budget detail worksheet and the budget narrative are single document collectively referred to as the budget detail worksheet. The budget detail worksheet should include a thorough and clear description of every cost listed in the narrative section for each budget category. OJP expects proposed budgets to be complete, cost-effective, and allowable. So reasonable and necessary for the project activities. We have a great tip. The budget summary at the end of the budget detail worksheet, it really should match the amounts that you entered in your SF-424 with regard to the total federal amount that's being requested and the match requirement if that's applicable to your particular solicitation. Staying in the topic of the budget narrative on the budget, you need to avoid the mistake of not including a thorough and clear description of every cost listed in a narrative. Not demonstrating in the narrative how an applicant will maximize most cost effectiveness of an award expenditures in particular, to justify the proposed costs in relation to potential alternatives to achieving the same project purposes and objectives. Budget planning. The DOJ Grants Financial Guide, or the Guide, serves as the primary reference manual to assist OJP, OVW, and COPS Office award recipients in fulfilling their fiduciary responsibility to safeguard grant funds and ensure funds are used for the purposes for which they were awarded. The site below goes directly to the DOJ Grants Financial Guide. Also in budget planning, the budget detail worksheet is user-friendly now, and it's fillable. Microsoft Excel-based document designed to calculate all your totals. The Excel workbook contains worksheets for multiple budget years that can be completed as necessary. Also, all applicants should use the Excel version when completing the proposed budget in the application, except in cases where the applicant does not have access to Microsoft Excel or experiences technical difficulties. The OJP budget detail worksheet is referenced on this particular website. Now we're going to look at some critical elements. You should address every critical element listed in the solicitation. The critical elements are listed in Section D, Application and Submission Information. What an application should include. Omitting a critical element will result in the application not proceeding to peer review, and it will not receive further consideration. Here's a great tip. Refer to the applicant checklist to ensure that you have included all the critical elements with your submission. Now we want to talk about the submission process. Don't wait until the deadline date to submit your application. OJP urges each applicant to submit his application at least 72 hours prior to the application due date to allow time to receive validation messages or rejection notifications from grants.gov and to correct in a timely fashion any problems that you may have caused to, a rejection notification. Also be advised, some solicitations end at 11 p.m., some solicitations end at 5 p.m. So let's not just look at the date. We want to pay attention to the actual time as well. Within 48 hours after submitting the electronic application, the applicant should receive 2 notifications from grants.gov. The first will confirm the receipt of the application. The second will state whether the application has been validated and successfully submitted, or whether it has been rejected due to errors with an explanation. If an applicant submits multiple versions of the same application, OJP will only review the most recent system-validated version submitted. Also, in submission process, attachments. An applicant must use the Add Attachment button to attach a file to its application. Do not click the paperclip icon to attach files. This action will not attach the files to the application. After adding an attachment, select the View Attachment button to confirm you attached the correct file. To remove the file, select the Delete Attached button. Now, if you need any assistance, for technical assistance, please contact grants.gov. Applicants needing assistance with any other requirement may contact the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, NCJRS Response Center, at the information provided. Fiscal year 2019 resources for funding opportunities. For information on funding opportunities, publications, and initiatives, visit BJA's website at bja.gov. The 2019 OJP Grant Application Resource Guide. the Office of Justice Programs Fiscal Year 2019 Program Plan Initiatives. The Department of Justice Program Plan is a tool to help applicants and grantees find funding opportunities, solicitations, that address their criminal, juvenile, and civil justice needs. The plan provides summary details of the funding opportunities that DOJ agencies are expecting to release in fiscal year 2019. Also, be certain to refer to grants.gov, which provides information on available funding, federal funding opportunities for various federal agencies. The National Criminal Justice Reference Service, NCJRS, which links to all current OJP funding opportunities. Feel free to subscribe to receive email notifications of new opportunities. They're available at ncjrs.gov. The National Institute of Justice's crimesolutions.gov, which is a web-based clearinghouse of programs and practices that have been rated in terms of effectiveness in addressing different criminal justice issues. They're available at crimesolutions.gov. Stay connected with us on social media, with Facebook, Twitter, for information on funding opportunities, publications, and initiatives. Again, I can't stress enough, BJA.gov, and also the National Criminal Justice Reference Service at ncjrs.gov, which links to all current OJP funding opportunities.
Okay, so we are at the question and answer portion of the webinar. And before we begin that, for those of you that may have joined a little later and missed the introduction, I wanted to go over that again. So the recording for this webinar, the slides, and a transcript will all be posted to the Bureau of Justice Assistance website in approximately 10 business days. You will receive notification via email when that has happened. You may also, if you like, sign up to receive the NCJRS funding newsletter. Can you go back to that slide for that information? And that newsletter comes out every Friday, and we will also announce the posting of the artifacts for this webinar as well as the other 3 BJA webinars in that newsletter. So if you know somebody that was unable to register for these events because they were at capacity, you could also let them know that they can sign up for the funding newsletter. That way they will be notified when everything is posted. So I'm going to leave this information on the screen so that you can jot it down if you like. It has the information about BJA social media, both Facebook, Twitter, and RSS, as well as the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, and you can contact them. So we will now begin with our first question. Do you have a BJA, if you currently have a BJA award, do you have to re-register if you want to apply for a new award?
You do not have to re-register. You simply just have to go back in and make sure you register for that particular solicitation which you wish to apply for. Everyone online, this is your time and opportunity to express questions. We have laid out many of the common mistakes and have gone over them. And this is the time to, if we brushed over something or if you need clarification, please go to the chat box, send your questions. We're here.
Q&A box. Please submit your questions in the Q&A box. And we do have something. I'm not 100% sure what the feedback is. So when I ask this question, if you need to submit something clarifying, please do so. They want to know if they are able to receive feedback on your grant. Are you able to receive feedback on your grant? So I'm not sure if it's a grant that's currently been funded or if it's an application that they weren't awarded, but anyhow.
All of the submitted proposals go through peer review. So you will receive feedback whether you are awarded or you are not awarded a grant opportunity or a cooperative agreement. You will receive feedback with comments. about your particular proposal?
It was mentioned that the SF 424 should match the budget detailed worksheet. However, when we submit the SF 424 in grants.gov, we do not always know what the final budget will be on our application. Is this okay?
No, you should be planning in the budget process, and that should inform the SF 424. So when you are doing your budget planning and determining what are the expenditures, should you be awarded this funding opportunity, that all come together, and that should be the final amount for your SF 424. Meaning, if it's a 3-year grant and you have everything broken down, year 1, year 2, year 3, laid out in your budget and ready to insert into the budget detail worksheet, that is the final number that actually goes into the total amount that you are requesting from the federal government.
I would like the URL for the electronic budget worksheet.
Go ahead, Janelle.
You can locate the budget detail worksheet on the OJP Funding Resource Center website. That website is www.ojp.gov/funding, and from there you'll see that the budget detail worksheet is listed under the applicant resource section.
If you are new to applying to BJA, do you provide one-on-one assistance?
There is no assistance except that you can call
the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, and our information is placed throughout this presentation and is on the slide in front of you. There is a call center that you can contact us at, a 1-800 number, as well as by email. You can also contact us by web chat.
And I want to reiterate that all are welcome to apply, but we're definitely looking to diversify these portfolios. So for you newcomers, let's ask some questions. Let's get them out there to the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, and let's begin to help you be able to help your community.
Where is clear guidance on supplanting if you are nonprofit?
You can locate information in regards to supplanting and supplementing a grant award in the Department of Justice Financial Guide. The Financial Guide, again, is located on the OJP Funding Resource Center website, and that website is www.ojp.gov/funding. That Funding Resource Center website is essentially a portal for all OJP funding-related resources. So whether you are a new applicant, a seasoned applicant, or you are dealing with questions that are post-award, the Funding Resource Center website would be the most central location to locate that type of information.
Are you able to receive feedback on your grant application?
You will only receive feedback or comments on your final submitted grant application. We do not assist with your development of your proposal, but should you submit a final proposal that is peer-reviewed, the comments from that process will be provided whether you are awarded or not awarded the opportunity.
And those award notifications, if you are selected for an award, you will receive a notification of award no later than September 30th of that current fiscal year. And if you are not successful in your application, you will receive an email notification that will advise you of that, as well as contain those peer review comments that Andre has referenced. That'll be sent by email from an OJP email account. It'll only be sent to the AOR in the eBiz point of contact at the time of application. So if you are a grant writer or involved in writing this for your organization, you would not necessarily receive that. You would need to check with the AOR in the eBiz point of contact.
Follow up to the current question about receiving feedback. They in particular want to know they were funded in September, but they never received feedback. So I guess they're looking to see how they can get that.
Well, or if you're talking about a fiscal year 18, by all means, reach out to the Department of Justice, whether any of the bureaus within OJP, and they'll direct you to the right person. But if not, I'm always available. I'm Andre Bethea, a policy advisor here at BJA, and that's Andre.Bethea, B as in boy, E, T as in Thomas, H as in Harry, E as in Edward, A as in Apple, at usdoj.gov. I'm available to you. Send me your email, and we'll work to get you your comments.
Will you have similar webinars for each upcoming solicitation?
I cannot guarantee that all of the solicitations will have webinars. I can assure you that some of them will, and at the present time, I cannot differentiate between which will have solicitation webinars and which solicitations will not have a webinar. I can tell you that we made the greatest effort to ensure that we wanted you to avoid some common mistakes, and we wanted to help you through from soup to nuts throughout the entire application process. Again, we're happy and excited for those who have been able to be funded, but we're also looking to diversify all of our portfolios. So we're trying to encourage, we want to reach some cities, we want to reach some rural areas, we want to tap in to all regions of the country and its territories. So we are here for you.
I would also like to add, if there isn't a specific webinar for an individual solicitation, as part of this educational applicant webinar series that BJA has put together, there in the third webinar that was hosted on February 5th, the title of that webinar was The Federal Funding Process, What New and Seasoned Applicants Should Consider. This is a very large overview, not solicitation specific, but certainly addresses all the components in a solicitation, how to apply, questions regarding the review criteria, the budget detail worksheet. It kind of provides a snapshot of how to dissect a solicitation and read it from an applicant perspective to assist you in developing your budget. So as we had mentioned, those webinars, the previous three as well as this one, will be posted on the BJA website. And you can certainly visit bja.gov or subscribe to receive one of the many newsletters that we've offered today.
As a new ED, how do I ensure the agency is registered at grants.gov, and or do I need to register myself?
Well, first and foremost, I think you want to check within the agency to see if there have been any awards received by the agency or if there have been other times they've applied. If that is the case, then you are, in fact, already registered. Now, if you can't find those answers and the point of contacts or ARI, authorized representatives, are no longer with your team, then we have to think about how do we set you up or your organization up. So again, these seems like some technical questions that would go to grants.gov, and their emails are provided and their information is provided. But as a starting place, maybe you want to start your conversation off with the National Criminal Justice Reference Services just to get started on figuring that out. And that's an important situation. You're not alone. Many agencies change leaders. Many organizations undergo many types of transitions. And sometimes the point of contacts and authorized representatives have changed or no longer in their positions. So again, let's get that ball rolling and reach out to the NCJRS, which you see many ways to reach them, whether email, web chat, or toll free. So let's get that going. You're not alone.
In regards to registering as an individual, you would only register as an individual if you are applying for an opportunity that allowed an individual to actually apply. So you would refer to the eligibility criteria. It is not necessary for an individual to register in grants.gov if they're applying on behalf of an organization and that organization is already registered.
Are there updates around 1373 and sanctuary cities, a city requirement? And do all BJA grants have the same language in this area so we can start preparing?
Well, at the very beginning of this webinar, I stressed that you should all read the solicitation twice. I think each solicitation brings its own rules, its own understanding, and its own commitments, whether financial commitments or legal commitments. So we cannot say that there's any blanket statement regarding any of the solicitations in the OJP or specific solicitations in BJA that refer to anything other than what's already written in that specific solicitation.
You indicated that there were two confirmations for a submitted application. Do they come from different departments or the same?
They come from the same department. Grants.gov submits them, and they're really just confirmation that they received it and whether or not there was an error. Go ahead, Janelle.
And that error is only specific to whether or not it was a technical issue in submitting your application in grants.gov. That is not a verification that your application contains all the mandatory attachments or certifications. That is something that the applicant should utilize the application checklist to check and make sure that all the required documents have been submitted. Again, those confirmation emails about successful submission are only for an application package that has been submitted.
Should we call the NCJRS call center with specific questions or the POC on the OVW solicitation when logged into grants.gov?
Well, we're referring to BJA solicitations, and but you can always call NCJRS, and we'll help you figure out whether or not you're applying for OVC, OVW, NIJ, BJS, or OJJDP. But currently, this webinar was geared towards the Bureau of Justice Assistance solicitation.
And each OJP solicitation, generally on page 2, will have whomever is the contact for solicitation-related inquiries. So again, I would refer to page 2 of any funding opportunities to which you're applying for, and for OVW, they would have designated a number to contact for those types of questions.
Can you provide the URL for the 2019 BJA program plan?
It's on the DOJ OJP's website?
Yes, it is. It's on the Department of Justice website, but you can also find it on the OJP Funding Resource Center website. If you visit that website, it's ojp.gov/funding. You'll see 3 different colored boxes. The first box on your left, you'll be able to scroll down there, and there's a hyperlink to the Department of Justice program plan. That will include all BJA's anticipated releases, which obviously would be subject to change due to any appropriations that are changed in a mission of the agency. You can also review at that same program plan opportunities for the other OJP bureaus. So again, you can look at NIJ, OBC, BJA, BJS, SMART, etc.
Perhaps too much on a tangent, but generally, do particular regions take priority for awards, or does it vary from program to program?
You're not off on a tangent. Again, I want to stress that we're here to help you make your community safer by all means. That means all of you. That means all of you in this great country and the territories. So no, we're not leaning in one direction or another. These are competitive solicitations. Therefore, they are peer-reviewed. Nothing is arbitrary, nothing is capricious, and certainly nothing is earmarked.
When will the 2019 funding opportunities be posted to the website?
The BJA has already released some of their funding opportunities, and you can locate that at bja.gov. Select grants and funding, and you'll see the current funding table with those solicitations that are now available. You can also search grants.gov. So going to grants.gov and putting BJA and the search option in the top right-hand corner will provide you with a list of BJA solicitations that are also currently open. And I hate to be repetitive, but the OJP Funding Resource Center website at ojp.gov/funding, you'll find a list of all current funding opportunities that are offered through all the OJP offices on that site. Again, it's on the left-hand side, and you're just going to select current opportunities.
Can you have extra or multiple agency logins at grants.gov?
You can have multiple registrations for an agency if you had different departments. But again, I think this is a pretty broad question, Andre. I think that if you're an eligible entity and you are registering with grants.gov, you need to complete all 4 of those registration steps to make sure that the process has been completed fully. If you have any questions related to registration, you should direct those to grants.gov.
That is correct, Janelle. All those type of technical assistant questions should probably go to grants.gov.
If you currently have a BWC grant and it will end in 2019, can you apply for a new enhancement grant from the same grantor or different BJA department in the same year? Please let me know.
You can always apply for any type of grant based on the needs that you have identified in your community and through your agency. Having an open grant, or and you want to apply for the new awards under the new solicitation, you're not precluded unless that's identified inside the solicitation. We tend to be very descriptive and we're very thorough about if we do not intend to let former grantees or current grantees apply, or if we're looking for to make only new awards. It's usually very descriptive.
That would be all the questions that we have in the Q&A. I do know that we were getting some in the chat feature. I'm going to try and address those. Some of them without repeating anything that might have already been addressed. So bear with me for 1 minute. I think all the questions that were submitted through chat have already actually been answered in Q&A, it looks like. If you have any other questions at this time, please go ahead and submit them into the Q&A. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and we'll flip to the resource slide so that you can go ahead and jot down some of the other information. So actually right now we have the National Criminal Justice Reference Service information up online. Again, that's their email, web chat, and toll-free number. They will be listed as the contact on BJA solicitations, at least for the majority of them. There might be something out there that isn't directed to BJA. But so again, if you look at that second page, you will see this same information. So when you have questions about a particular solicitation, please contact the National Criminal Justice Reference Service. If you have technical questions, though, that would then go through grants.gov. And then the other information that I wanted to just kind of leave up here for a little while longer is the social media information for BJA, as well as the BJA website. All right, so we did have some more questions that came through, and I will go ahead and address those. When will the slides for the 4 trainings be available? We are going to try to make those slides available as soon as possible. They can, about 10 business days, so the ones from last week should be available by Monday, Tuesday of this coming week, and then the ones from this week will be available in about 10 business days. That not only goes for the slides, but also for the transcript as well as the audio recording. The transcript is kind of handy because you don't have to listen to the entire recording. If you just want to flip to the Q&A section, then you can kind of reread the questions there without listening to the entire recording or trying to kind of find the information that you're looking for. Is more than one extension allowable for a grant?
If you are referring to a no-cost extension, then no. You're only allowed to have one no-cost extension at the very end of your grant cycle. So whenever your grant ends, if you run into some complications or your timeline increase for whatever reason, you may submit and request a no-cost extension. I would like to encourage those of you who have questions regarding avoiding mistakes or regarding some of the content that was covered today, to please, by all means, submit your questions to the Q&A.
Again, at this time, it looks like we have captured everything. We will obviously give you a little more time to see if there is something that jogs your mind. As Andre had said, this is the perfect opportunity to have your questions answered. So if there's a burning question that you have, please ask it. So since there are no further questions, we are going to end this webinar. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you to the entire team here from the National Criminal Justice Reference Services. We want to definitely thank you all of you wonderful people out there, and encourage you all to continue to look at all of the information that's supplied on the page. Stay connected. Call in if you have any questions. Again, you have numerous ways to reach NCJRS. They're here for you. And we here at Bureau of Justice Assistance are really trying to meet the needs of the field to help you and your agency ensure that your communities are safer.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.